Where is the super, super horny lady? Books of Bliss. Here we go. I don't know if there's even room in this place to read, but we're reading at the books. Oh, wait, she's literally owns a bookstore, me. Of course she's got some areas to sit down and read. I forgot it was a bookstore that she ran. Yeah. We're hanging out today. We're going to be reading some books alongside our super horny fucking seductress lady over here. Oh, yeah. You want to have a seat with me, Santir? Santir? Yeah?
So, how'd you like to get together later and leaf through my
I would love to leaf through your Octovo, my lady Santir.
Looking for a good book?
Yeah, I will eventually probably buy the books from you, but that's not why we're here today, unfortunately. There's no actual path to pursue anything there, which is a little unfortunate, but yeah, we at least got some good company while we read this book. I think her company is probably going to suit us a lot better than fucking oh my god, I'm forgetting her name. Oh my god, what the fuck is her name? Sickly Bernice. Yeah, I think this lady's company is probably going to be a lot better. We haven't read Grommok's journal. Alright, well, we're going to start off with Grommok's journal, because I completely forgot we didn't read this thing. This is Grommok's journal, of course, is, the adventurer that we killed at Zedeti? Something like that? I forget the exact name of the place. Yeah, we killed this guy. We drove him insane. We gave him the illusion that he was dead. And then he realized he wasn't dead, and then he went insane, which is honestly pretty fair. Especially compared to that first dude. That first dude had no right to go insane. But anyway. The third of Rain's Hand, Third Era, 431. We were finally able to convince that idiot rogue Lewin that it was time to give up that strong box of money he stole from Lel's quality merchandise and an anvil and ditch it outside the castle. All the heat he brought on the group was starting to chafe. Sindilius pretty much sat him down and made him do it, because I was ready to put my foot in his face. I know he's a rogue, but we're adventurers. We get our loot from raiding old crypts and ruins and places that ain't got guards. He can be a real horse's ass sometimes, I'll tell ya. 12 of Rain's Hand, Third Era, 431. What a bad freedis we've had. We hit what was left of old Fort Wariel, and after slaughtering a bunch of no good marauders and grabbing their loot, made our way north. We came to the ruins of Trumbe. Sindilius said they were Aeolid or Iolid or some kind of old civilization, but all I cared about was how loaded with gold they were. He said usually they were, so in we went. What a mistake. The place was crawling with skeletons and ghosts. Those things give me the creeps. How can I fight something that ain't even alive? Oh, that explains his fucking terror when he saw himself turn into a ghost. Lewin took a few good hits and had to pop all of his potions. Sindilius broke his arm when a trap almost crushed him to death. Now I got a nice, nasty scar across my forehead. Close call. Best of all, when we got to the treasure hoard, Lewin was out of lockpicks. Why do we even keep him with us? We had to drag the damn container out of Trumbe and all the way back to Camp Atrani. I'm pretty sure these are all places that we've actually explored, which is really cool. Granted, it was like fucking years ago, but anyway. Now I'm sitting here staring at a stupid metal box, wishing I could use Lewin's head to bash it open. What a dolt. 13th of Rain's Hand, Third Era, 431. After a night of deciding whether or not to snap off Lewin's legs and use them as firewood, I sent Sindilius and Lewin to Anvil to buy more lockpicks while they guarded the box. They came back in a few hours and Lewin picked the lock in the first try. Good thing, too. I was still pretty mad at the guy. I don't like sitting around all day. Anyway, Sindilius got all excited when he saw something wrapped up in some sort of fancy cloth. Inside the cloth was a bunch of stuff, but the best was the sword. What a beauty. Blade looks like a mouth with teeth, handle like golden snakeskin, and the gem in the middle of it. A perfect fiery orange and red, like the sky at dawn. Sindilius was going crazy, and I asked him what was all the noise for. He told me it was an Akaviri or something like that, and made by the snake people. Or the Saesi or whatever. Sindelius says Saesi starts with a T. That's supposed to be a T. But like, God, that T looks just like a fucking J. But I'm pretty sure it is a T. Yeah, no, it is a T, because just now when he saw me writing this. But that doesn't make any sense. Tsaesci. Fine, there, I wrote it. By the 9. Sindelius is nosy sometimes. Well, anyway, the best was yet to come. What the fuck? Right as the sun was setting, the sword vanished for a moment, and was suddenly replaced by another weapon that looked almost the same, but the gem on it was deep blue and purple. Sindelius said he was certain that at dawn it would change back to the orange and red gem. Well, this was good enough for me. That alone made the sword the best thing I had ever seen. Lewin muttered something about Akaviri magic, but I told him to shut up. I decided to call the sword Dawnfang when it was orange and red, and Duskfang when it was blue and purple. 14th to the 16th of Rain's Hand, 3rd Era, 341. Things are getting better and better with my new sword in these last few days. I found out Dawnfang is a fire blade and Duskfang is a frost blade, handy for extra killing power. But the best was what I found out when a minotaur decided to jump us, and I landed the killing blow. I heard a voice in my head, or maybe a thought, I don't know. It was weird, but it felt like the sword knew it had just killed the minotaur, like it was counting or something. At first I thought maybe I was just tired, but after tearing through a camp of bandits, it kept counting. After the 12th kill, it told me its thirst was satisfied. At least I think it told me. Then it stopped. Sindelius said it's possible the sword was a blood drinker. My kind of sword. But he didn't know what would happen. It didn't take that long to find out. When dusk came around and the blade changed, I almost fell off the campfire log. The new blade was still Duskfang, but it somehow seemed stronger. I could just tell. I couldn't wait to try it out. This is stuff I actually didn't even realize that happened with the sword. I could actually use the sword now, which I usually don't use swords in the first place. But hey, I'm gonna have to use it. I ran right out and looked for something to kill. Didn't take long to come across a few of those stupid imps. Sure enough, not only did it do more frost damage than normal, but also I could feel the energy from the creature transfer to me every time I hit it. What a weapon this was. Yeah, Duskfang Superior. That's what I'll call it. Sometimes I amaze even myself. Sindelius said he was sure Duskfang would blood drink too, and I could power up Dawnfang with it. Oh, okay, so you gotta use Duskfang. If you use Duskfang well enough, then Dawnfang will get superior. Okay. I spent all night looking for 12 things to kill, and when the sun came up, he was right. Dawnfang Superior is to be this one's name. It's like having 4 blades in one. 17th to the 19th of Rain's Hand, 3rd Era, 341. It's been the most fun I have ever had in my life, cutting a bloody swath across the ruins of Cyrodiil with my new double sword. Sindelius and Lewin are even more confident now that we have such a powerful weapon among us. We've gathered tons of loot in the last 3 days, but nothing compares to this. We're going to head north and explore the area around Niben Bay today. I hope that something else like this turns up on our adventures. Then I'm going to retire. Well, unfortunately, you're actually not going to retire, bud. Well, follow it up. I think we might also read just one more book today with the Father of the Niben, since we're, already in the area. Maybe we'll read another short one. I don't know. We'll see how long that takes. Father of the Niben, translated and with commentary... translated and with commentary by Florin Jalil. Introduction. Writing the biography of anyone is a challenge. Usually the problem lies in assessing one's sources, comparing the prejudices of one chronicle versus another. Juan Jarth, I have been told, in writing his well-regarded series on the Wolf Queen of Solitude, used over 100 contemporary narratives. I cannot complain about my task having a similar issue. There is but one record of the man called Topol the Pilot, the earliest known Aldmer explorer of Tamriel. Topol the Pilot. Never mind. Only 4 short verse fragments of the epic Father of the Niben have survived to present day, but they offer an interesting, if controversial, look at the Middle Merethic era, when Topol the Pilot may have sailed the seas around Tamriel. Though Father of the Niben is the only written record of Topol the Pilot's voyages, it is not the only proof of his existence. Among the treasures of the Great Crystal Tower of Somerset Isle are his crude but fascinating maps, his legacy to all Tamriel. The translation of the Aldmeri Adhendra Nibenu, Father of the Niben, is my own, and I accept that other scholars may disagree with some of my choice of words. I cannot promise my translation lives up to the beauty of the original. I have only strived for simple coherence. Fragment 1. Second ship, the Pascanel, manned by pilot. Ilio was to follow the southern pointing. Waystone and the third, the Niben, manned by pilot. Topal was to follow the northeast, pointing Waystone the orders from the Crystal Tower. They were to sail forth for 80 moons and then return to Tel. Only Niben returned to First Hold, laden high with gold and spice and fur and strange creatures, dead and live, though alas, old Elnefay Topal never found. He told the tales of the lands he had visited to the wonderment of all. For 66 days and nights he sailed, over crashing waves of dire intent, past whirlpools, through mists that burned like fire, until he reached the mouth of a great bay, and he landed on a sun-kissed meadow of gentle dells. As he and his men rested, there came a fearsome howl, and hideous orcs streamed forth from the murky glen, cannibal teeth clotting with gore. For centuries, strange crystalline balls were unearthed at the sites of ancient Aldmer shipwrecks and docks, peculiar artifacts of the Merethic and Dawn eras that puzzled archaeologists, until it was demonstrated that each had a tendency to rotate on its axis in a specific direction. There were 3 varieties, one that pointed southward, one that pointed northeast, and one that pointed northwest. It is not understood how they work, but they seemed attuned to particular lines of power. These are the waystones of the fragment, which each of the pilots used to point their craft in the direction they were assigned to go. A ship with the name not mentioned in the fragment took his vessel northwest, towards Thras and Yakunda. The Pasquinel took the southern waystone and must have sailed down toward Pyandonia. Topal and his northeast waystone found the mainland of Tamriel. It is clear from this fragment what the 3 ships were assigned to do: find a passage back to Old Nefay, so that the Aldmer now living in Somerset could learn what became of their old homeland. As this book is intended to be a study of Topol the Pilot, there is scarcely room to dedicate to different theories of the Aldmeri exodus from Old Nefay. If I were using this poem as my source, I would have to agree with the scholars who believe in the tradition that several ships left Old Nefay and were caught in a storm. Those who survived found their way to Somerset Isle, but without their waystones, they did not know what direction their homeland was. After all, what other explanation is there for 3 ships heading in 3 opposite directions to find a place? Naturally, only one of the ships returned, and we do not know if either or both of the other 2 found Old Nefay, or perished at sea or at the hands of the ancient Pyandonians, Sload, or Yakundans. We must assume, unless we think the Aldmer particularly idiotic, that at least one of them must have been pointing in the right direction. It may well have even been Topal, and he simply did not go northeast far enough. So Topal setting sail from First Hold heads northeast, which coincidentally is the longest one can travel, along the Abasian Sea without striking land of any kind. Had he traveled straight east, he would have struck the mainland somewhere in what is now the Colovian west of Cyrodiil in a few weeks. Had he traveled southeast, he might have reached the hump of Valenwood in a few days. But our pilot, judging by his own in our modern maps, sailed in a straight line northeast, through the Abasian Sea and into the Iliac Bay, before touching ground somewhere near present-day Anticlare in 2 months' time. The rolling verdant hills of southern High Rock are unmistakable in this verse, recognizable to anyone who has been there. The question, of course, is what is to be made of this apparent reference to orcs occupying the region. Tradition has it that the orcs were not born until after the Aldmer had settled the mainland, that they sprung up as a distinct race following the famous battle between Trinimac and Boethia at the time of Resdain. It is possible that the tradition is wrong. Perhaps the orcs were an aboriginal tribe predating the Aldmeri colonization. Perhaps these were a cursed folk, Orsimer and the Aldmeris, the same word for orc, of a different kind, whose name was to be given the orcs in a different era. It is regrettable that the fragment ends here, for the more clues to the truth are undoubtedly lost. What's missing between the first fragment and the second is appreciable, I think. Yeah, pretty sure. It must be more than 80 months that have passed, because Topal is on the opposite side of mainland Tamriel now, attempting to sail southwest to return to Firsthold after his failure at finding Old Nofé. Fragment 2. No passage westward could be found in the steely cliffs that jutted up like Giant's Jaw, so the Niben sailed south. As it passed Anne, sandy, forested island that promised sanctuary and peace, the crew cheered in joy. Then exultation turned to terror as a great shadow rose from the trees I was hyping it up and then I butchered it. From the trees on leathered wings like an unfurling cape, the great bat lizard was large as the ship, but good pilot Topal merely raised his bow and struck it in its head. As it fell, he asked his bow son, "Do you think it's dead? Is this a fucking dragon? What?" And before it struck the white-bearded waves, he shot once more its heart to be certain. And so, for another 40 days and 6, the Niben sailed south. We can see that in addition to Topal's prowess as a navigator, cartographer, survivalist, and raconteur, he is a master of archery. It may be poetic license, of course, but we do have archaeological proof that the Merthic Aldmer were sophisticated archers. Their bows of layers of wood and horn drawn by silver silk thread are beautiful, and still, I have heard experts say, millennia later, very deadly. It is tempting to imagine it's a dragon, but the creature that Topal faces at the beginning of this fragment sounds like an ancestor of the Cliff Racer of present-day Morrowind. The treacherous cliff coastline sounds like the region around Necrom, and the island of Gournay may be where the nest of the bat lizard is. No creatures like that exist in eastern Morrowind to my knowledge at the present day. Fragment 3. The fetid, evil swamplands and their human lizards, hey, that's me, retreated to the east, and Topal and his men's hearts were greatly gladdened by the sight of diamond blue, pure, sweet ocean. For 3 days they sailed in great cheer northwest, where the first hold beckoned them, but hope died in horror, as land like a blocking shield rose before them. Topal the pilot was sore wroth, and consulted he the maps he had faithfully drawn, to see whether best to go south, where the continent must end, or take the river that snaked through a passage north. "North!" cried he to his sad men. "North we go now. Fear not, north!" Tracing Topal's movements, we see that he has skirted the edge of Morrowind and delved into southern Blackmarsh, seemingly determined to follow his waystone as best as he can. The swamp he is leaving is probably near present-day Gideon. Knowing what we now know about Topal's personality, we can understand his frustration in the bay between Blackmarsh and elsewhere. Here is a man who follows his orders explicitly, and knows that he should have been going southeast through riverways to reach Firsthold. Looking at its maps, we can see that he attempted to find passages through, as he has mapped out in the inner sea of Morrowind, in several of the swampy tributaries of Black Marsh, no doubt being turned away by the disease and fierce Argonian tribes that had dissuaded many other explorers after him. With a modern map of Tamriel in hand, we can see that he makes the wrong choice in electing to go northeast instead of pushing southward. He could not have known then that what he perceived to be the endless mainland was only a jutting peninsula. He only knew that he had traveled too far southward already, and so he made a smart but incorrect decision to go up the river. It is ironic that this great miscalculation would today bear his mark of history. The bay he thought was an endless ocean is now known as Topol Bay, and the river that took him astray shares the name of his boat, the Niben River. Odd. Well, I feel like I'm kind of confused on where exactly he actually is. It's ironic that this great miscalculation... The bay he thought was an endless ocean is now known as Topol Bay, and the river that took him astray shares the name of his boat, Niben River. Right? Because isn't... Oh. Well, we're not in the right world to actually be able to look at the map. Well, that's unfortunate. Alright. Whoopsie. Fragment 4. Just have to look at the map on your own, I guess. Fragment 4. The cat demons of 4 legs and 2 ran the river's length, always keeping the boat in their green-eyed sight, hissing and spitting and roaring with rage. But the sailors never had to brave the shores, for fruit trees welcomed them, dropping their arms down to the river's edge, as if to embrace the myrrh, and the men took the fruits quickly before the cats could pounce. For 11 days they traveled north, until they came to a crystalline lake, and 8 islands of surpassing beauty and peace. Brilliant, flightful creatures of glorious colors greeted them in Aldmeri language, making the Myrrh wonder until they understood they were only calling back the word they were speaking without understanding it, and then the sailors laughed. Topol the pilot was enchanted with the islands and the feathered men who lived there. There the Niben stayed for a moon, and the bird men learned how to speak their own words, and with taloned feet to write. In joy for their new knowledge, they made Topol their lord, giving him their islands for the gift. Topol said he would return some day, but first he must find the passage east to Firsthold, so far away. This last fragment is bittersweet for a number of reasons. We know that this strange, friendly, feathered people the pilot encounters will be lost. In fact, this poem is the only one where mention is made of the bird creatures of Cyrodiil. The bird creatures, huh? I ain't never heard of that, what the fuck? The literacy that Topol gives them is evidently not enough to save them from their eventual fate, likely at the hands of the cat demons, who we may assume are ancient Khajiit. We know that Topol and his crew never find a route from the 8 islands, which are the modern-day Imperial City, through to the Iliac Bay. His maps tell the tale where this lost poem cannot. We see his hand as he traces his route up the Niben to Lake Rumer, and after attempting a few tributaries which did not lead him where he wants to go, we can imagine Topol's frustration and that of his long-suffering crew as they return back down the Niben to Topol Bay. There, they evidently discovered their earlier mistake, for we see that they passed the peninsula of Elsewhere. Eventually, they traveled along its coastline, past the shores of Valen Wood, and eventually home. Usually, epic tales end with a happy ending, but this one begins with one, and the means to which it was accomplished is lost. Besides the extraordinary bird creatures of present-day Cyrodiil, we have caught glimpses of ancient orcs, perhaps, ancient cliff racers, ancient Argonians, and in this fragment, ancient Khajiit. Quite a history in a few lines of simple verse, all because a man failed to find his home, and took all the wrong turns to retrace his steps back. Quite fascinating indeed. Do we have time for another short book? Do we have another short book is the real question. Because I don't really think we do. It's looking like every book I fucking open is goddamn 1,000 pages long. I mean, holy fucking hell. Holy shit. Oh my god, we're gonna have so much reading to do. Crazy amount of reading. Alright. Nerevar Moon and Star. This is a selection from a series of monographs by various Imperial scholars on Ashlander legends. In ancient days, the deep elves and a great host of outlanders from the west came to steal the land of the Dunmer. In that time, Nerevar was the great Khan and war leader of the House people, but he honored the ancient spirits and the tribal law and became as one of us. So, when Nerevar pledged upon his great ring of the ancestors, one clan under Moon and Star, oh, that's just very annoying because it cuts off there, but it's, okay. To honor the ways of the spirits and rights of the land, all the tribes joined the House people to fight a great battle at Red Mountain. Though many Dunmer tribesmen and housemen died at Red Mountain, the Dwemer were defeated and their evil magics destroyed, and the Outlanders driven from the land. But after this great victory, the power-hungry Khans of the great houses slew Nerevar in secret, and setting themselves up as gods, neglected Nerevar's promises to the tribes. But it is said that Nerevar will come again with his ring, and cast down the false gods, and by the power of his ring will make good his promises to the tribes, to honor the spirits and drive the outsiders from the land. That sounds like it has to be very much related to Morrowind. Not like I've never played Morrowind, but that sounds like some stuff that I've heard about Morrowind. I could be wrong. Hell do I fucking know. But that's gonna do it for today. You got anything you want to say to us? Okay, I don't want to leave through your octavo. Well, yeah, that's gonna do it for us for today. We've read some books. We've read about the Grommok sword. Maybe we'll actually get to use the superior versions of the sword, but I don't really... Even the superior version, like, I already know it's not going to be that powerful anyway. But, yeah, that's going to do it for today. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. When next we return, we're going to be doing some exploring through the Land of Mania. Until then, goodbye.
So, how'd you like to get together later and leaf through my octavo?
Oh, I think later is now. Bye.
The time passes by
Bye.
so slow without you. Cause I don't wanna see the glow without you. Refuse to even leave my home without you. Or my brain's gonna explode without you. I don't even know how to cope without you. Cause I don't wanna see the glow without you. Refuse to even leave my home without you. Or my brain's gonna explode without you. I don't even know how to cope without you.